keep saying this, billions of people could only dream of being able to control their own destiny.
Okay, I have to stop him there. If voting actually mattered, they wouldn't let you do it. So when any politician, no matter right or left, comes out there and says that you shouldn't be cynical about our politicians or our leaders, is a big red flag to me. If you watch my channel, just remember this. None of these people are here to solve your problems.
Top issues: violent crime, inflation.
Yeah.
Let's start with inflation. What do you tell people who wake up, frankly, each morning wondering, how am I going to get by financially?
Yeah, I tell them, Kamala Harris and I know something about it, being middle-class folks. Our families sit at the table trying to pay the bill. We know coming out of a COVID pandemic with prices where they were that people need to see some relief. And I think that's why Kamala Harris has put out a plan, especially around home ownership, making sure we're building 3 million more affordable homes, making sure we're making the down payment assistance there. Drug prices, especially for seniors, making sure we're keeping a cap on those, that's making a difference. And then making sure we're investing in rural communities, like the investment acts that have created a lot of new jobs in terms of infrastructure and other things. Those are things that we start to get a handle on.
I don't care what anyone says. Do you see how much better Tim Walz is at being concise and actually getting his message out? Whenever you see Kamala Harris talk about stuff like this, she rants on about how she used to work at McDonald's, throws in a bunch of platitudes, but at least with Tim Walz, he's in and out. He talks about the down payment of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, but he doesn't stick there and talk about it for like 10 minutes. He's like, we're going to have a down payment for everyone who's going to try to afford a new home. We're going to work on lowering prescription drug costs, while showing a little bit of empathy that we understand that people are suffering after the pandemic decimated our supply chains, versus Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. When they were confronted on the question of the economy, they were like, the US economy is doing great. I don't know what anyone's talking about. Why are they complaining? What are y'all complaining about? See all these new job reports saying that we've increased the economy by millions of jobs, gig economy jobs that no one wants to work and have no benefits and no path forward in your own life. These then get revised down by significant amounts, like over 800,000 jobs. But putting that aside, Tim Walz's messaging is so much better than Kamala Harris's.
Violent crime, you touched on the violence around there, but
Yes.
more and more violent crime, younger people committing these violent crimes. What do you see as a possible solution to that?
I think for us, one of the things is we're going to have a national conversation, but we did in Minnesota, and we're seeing it around gun violence. And there's things you can do. Look, I'm a veteran, a hunter. I own firearms. Second Amendment's important, but our first responsibility is the safety of our children, getting them out of there. And I think one of the other things is investing in these kids' futures. We're seeing different pathways to careers, the skilled trades, things like that. Making sure that we're not losing these kids at an early age by investing in our schools. And what I say a lot of times, and I think it's true, is you can buy school buses or you can buy prison buses.
Okay, the first thing I disagree with is you're not going to be able to legislate gun violence away magically. Kamala Harris is talking about an assault weapons ban. Again, the central theme, I think, with gun control, criminals don't care about your laws. JD Vance actually had some useful ideas saying that we need to have more protection around our schools. I would say things like metal detectors and more access to mental health care for people in the United States. That's how I think we can address the issue of gun violence. So the right-wingers have some good ideas like JD Vance, and he talks about how we need to invest in our public schools and we can either invest in school buses or prison buses. I really like that line. Here's what bothers me about this current election. I would much rather have this be between JD Vance and Tim Walz. I wish those were the two presidential nominees, because Tim Walz has actually done some good things with providing school lunches for kids in schools, and JD Vance makes some compelling points about protectionism and actually trying to protect the American workers from competing with slave labor in China and Vietnam. Not Kamala Harris, who I see as a little bit of an airhead compared to other senior statesmen, and Donald Trump being his own worst enemy and not being able to get out of his own way, rather than letting his record speak for itself during his administration.
Well, I'm sure you hear from I do who are on the fence about whether they even want to vote. They're saying the environment is such that I'm not even sure I want to weigh in. What do you say to that?
And that's the thing that worries me the most, especially with young people, this idea of making people cynical about this. And look, there's a couple things you can do. You can go down the road to voter suppression, and I think there's folks that want to do that. Make it more difficult to vote, tell them it doesn't matter, tell them the system's broken, or worse yet, tell them that it's rigged, which we know it's not. Or you can go out and engage them, give them a more positive future, tell them like, this is what it'll impact your family if you do it. And I keep saying this, billions of people could only dream of being able to control their own destiny.
Okay, I have to stop him there. If voting actually mattered, they wouldn't let you do it. All these politicians are up for sale. So when any politician, no matter right or left, comes out there and says that you shouldn't be cynical about our politicians or our leaders, is a big red flag to me. If you watch my channel, just remember this. None of these people are here to solve your problems. Don't wait for the cavalry from the government to come save you. It's not.
People tell me, look, I'm not in that politics. politics, Governor. And I said, well, too bad. Politics is into you. It's going to impact your taxes. It's going to impact your roads. It's going to impact public safety. Why don't you get out there, make a difference, and at least have your voice heard?
I think the main reason people are so cynical over politics and why we're so polarized because we feel that we are unheard. So they then embrace things like extremism because they see voting as meaningless at this point. And the central issue is we need to get corruption out of politics. And the last person who I can think of who was actually motivated to do this was John McCain. Yes, John McCain was a warmonger, but he fundamentally disagreed with money in politics. Until we have ranked choice voting and public funding of elections, we're just going to keep getting the same thing from the system.
What is your hope for this country?
My hope is that we unify around our common principles, the support of our Constitution and the democracy, the belief that our neighbors are our neighbors. You don't have to agree with them, but I often say this, just mind your own business. They'll get by on that.
That's rich coming from people who keep saying Donald Trump's the end of democracy, and then go on to say we just disagree with our neighbors. Well, hold on. If Donald Trump wins, it's going to be the end of democracy. Maybe that rhetoric actually led to 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump, but who knows?
So my hope for the country is that democracy is a beautiful thing. It's also very fragile. We don't need one person making all the decisions. We need all of us involved in it. So my take is to get them out there. Kamala Harris has talked about being a president for all Americans. That's my hope.
Okay, I like this platitude that we're all in this together. Stop saying we're in this together. We have an oligarchy where the people in charge just siphon off money from the rest of us and just send it straight to the top because until this system changes, we're on our own.